And it should be good to go. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's my pleasure today to welcome you, Bob, to Experts Corner here at Commission Crowd. I know that you are the CEO of Business Town, and you help businesses with video to help them, maybe grow and start their own business. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Business Town it kind of started a couple of years ago. It has about 700 free videos on the website covering all aspects to running a business, from sales to strategy to human resources. So it's supposed to help entrepreneurs make their journey a little bit easy, give them the expertise, and give them a little bit of inspiration.
Oh, that's great. And I think one of the videos that I saw and how we got introduced to you was around commission-only sales. And I know that you've been working with agents for many years. Is that right?
Right. My main business over the years was Adams Media, a large book publishing company. I actually grew it with one book and a $1,500 investment, and I sold it for over $40 million as part of a private equity firm roll-up. And initially in the business, and even when I sold the business, a very important part of the business was the independent rep force that I put together over the years.
Yeah. And so how did you learn about reps? Is that, I guess it was industry specific at the time, or?
Well, I have a penchant for going into businesses I know nothing about. Nothing about, you just ask questions. I didn't even know what an independent rep was or how books were sold. When I decided I wanted to go into the book publishing business in my 20s, and I was still in business school, I just walked into a bookstore and said, so how do I sell books? And finally they said, you really, to leverage yourself, ought to think about getting some sales reps. And one of the things you can do is contact one of these independent reps who might be willing to take on a small independent publisher.
Great. And what did you, in terms of sort of interviewing for reps or finding reps, what were some of the challenges that you faced in doing that?
Well, the big challenge when you're going book publishing or any business is convincing the individual rep or the rep firm that your product is worth taking on. It's not going to be a complete waste of time, that they're going to at least try it. So that's the first hurdle you hit, but it's only the first of a number of hurdles.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the other challenges that you found over the years? Because certainly, what I think we were quite aligned when I watched your video in terms of education and helping businesses really understand what it takes to gain a partner in their business in that way.
Right. And typically, what happens is you try and beg and do whatever you can to get an independent rep to take on your book, and then you kind of sit back, relax, and feel everything is great. My products will be sold and turn up everywhere, and it doesn't work that way. With a new product, even if it's a really good product, a lot of reps tend to throw it in the back of the bag, or they might, as it's called in business, it might be like a first out of the bag, first time out of the sales bag. They get a weak response, and bang, they're done. They'll never show it again. So that's really the biggest hurdle with this independent sales reps, is getting them enthused.
Yeah, definitely. And then keeping them enthused as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, definitely. And when you were looking, how did you source reps?
Well, initially I would ask a bookstore who do they know, but unfortunately the problem with asking the retailer who do they know and who do they like, they tend to like the person who's the friendliest and perhaps pushes the least. And sometimes you want to get the person they don't like, but they're willing to come call on them. I think one of the really big traps you fall into when you're a new entrant is that you tend to go for and try for the most established and the biggest rep firms. And even if they'll take you on, chances are you're not going to get the kind of attention if you're a smaller firm. Now, I think there's also a sweet spot to hit, though. Sometimes there's some reps who are just getting going, or there's some very weak product lines. It's hard for them to get in key accounts. You don't want that person, but you don't want the person with the very biggest product lines either. Instead, you want a rep who's some good enough and distinct enough product lines to get in at least most of the accounts that matter, but is still willing and excited enough to be able to take on your product.
Yeah, definitely. And in your experience working with reps, how many other publishers or principals did they work with at the same time?
Well, it really varied. And one of the key differences I'd make in looking at at rep firms, you typically have one-person firms, i.e. the one person is the rep, there's no other person associated. Then you have rep firms who might be 20, 50 people, and in those cases, the reps are typically in some kind of salary structure plus some kind of bonus structure, and there's a head of the group who makes the decisions on what comes on and what doesn't. And the dynamics, they seem like they're different. Like the person running the big rep firm might say, hey, you're hiring me as a rep firm, so just pass on the information to me and I'll distribute to all my reps. But if you're the new small account, chances are that person running the rep firm isn't aggressively going to push your product on all his reps. So I find that even when you deal with a rep firm that has the head of the organization, you have to still go out to each of these reps individually and push them and excite them and compliment them and go with them and do whatever it takes to get them to sell your product.
Yeah. And what were some of the key tips, I mean, that you did in terms of how to motivate your team and how to keep them happy and what we call top of mind?
Well, I think one of the first rules to get past here with all this kind of stuff is you've got to realize if you really want to scale up your business, you can't worry about holding on to every little penny along the way. You've got to get a good discount to the retailer, get a good discount to the distributor. You have to be happy to pay commissions. And typically these commissions are across the board. They're ledger-based. So if somebody has a territory, they get a commission in every order in that territory, even if it happens to be an account that they didn't bring in. So you've got to feel good about that. And you've got to feel good, too, about spending a little bit beyond that. It's kind of like a political campaign. You're going to get these reps excited. Ideally, get them excited right from the beginning, because if they're not excited about the beginning, it's going to change their whole mindset of feeling about the product. So right off the bat, you want to have a great product, you want great sales sheets, you want some great success stories, not just of how the product worked maybe for the end user, but how it made money for the intermediary, for the sales outlet, whoever they're selling into, how it worked for the sales rep. And you also might want to have some extra incentive package. So beyond the commissions and any other expense you might have to pay to these people, you might want to have some spiffs, like the first person to hit 5 sales, bang, here's an extra $100. Or maybe the person who sells the most this particular product you want to push, it's a free trip to Jamaica. This is the kind of stuff that not only allows people to hear about the contest and think they might win, but it shows that you care about them. It shows you a little excitement, a little pizzazz about your firm. A lot of these reps are great people and they can talk about anything, but they're not going to be enthused about your product as you are. So you got to find some other ways to enthuse them. And it's an ongoing process. It takes a lot of work. You might say, where do I get the energy? I already built the product. I'm running the business. You got to do it.
Yeah, without sales, you don't have much. So,
absolutely. But there's so many great benefits though from an independent rep. Because on the other hand, you're not personally calling accounts. You're not scheduling. You're not begging to get appointments. And these people have some momentum. Often they have some trust to develop with these accounts. Often if you have a new product that comes along, they're going to take it not just because of you, but because they trust the independent rep.
Yeah.
Another thing you have is continuity. Like I see a lot of people think, well, I've worked it out on paper with the level of sales I'm going to get. I'm so much better off just hiring salaried people. We don't think about it. When you hire a few salaries people, you're always going to have a vacant and empty territory. When you have independent reps, that usually isn't the case. These people are running ongoing businesses. They're doing this for years. Also, you're a new entrant hiring experienced salespeople in the industry. You're probably not going to be able to hire the best people. You go out to hire commission reps. It's amazing. You're typically able to hire better people than the big guys are. The big boys, they have these people on salary. They've been there for a number of years, but sooner or later, some of these people on salary figure they can make more money in commission. They become independent reps, so you get better people than the big players get. Now, here's one of the very, very best things of all, though. These independent reps are typically a little bit older. They've been around the block. They've worked for the big companies. They've worked for small companies. They've seen the industry from all sides. Often they love to give advice. Not only they like they're helping you out, especially if you're a new entrant, it makes them feel good. They don't just like to sell. I mean, people that go out and sell, they typically don't do it for the money. They do it for the recognition. They like to feel they're helping people, like they're helping your business. I learned so much from independent reps, I can't tell you, especially going into business I didn't know. But if I knew the business, these people are a wealth of information and ideas. In fact, my very best friend was a fellow who ran my rep organization in the Midwest. I hardly ever saw him. He became friends by phone. But over the years, I reached the point where I was talking to him every day about absolutely everything. But he would he would like give me ideas, bring in ideas for new products, how to price them differently, what the competitors were doing. And a lot of other reps I wasn't as close with would contribute that information too. If they like you, it makes such a difference.
It really does. And and what we find is that when a rep can get really passionate and enthused about an opportunity, it's just the sky is the limit, and they've got
really is. It really is. I get a
Yeah.
product selling, they might be selling 500 different products. And with this product of yours, it still might not even be quite of the top products, but because you're a small person, it's catching fire, they kind of feel excited about that. They kind of catch in your excitement, like, this is my top product, it's doing well. And they're not as much thinking, oh, I'll get 74 extra dollars in the sale I'm going into. But they want to feel that it's part of making your product a success. In the book business, it's a little bit easier to do because there are all these charts you can follow that you can watch your books go up and tell them about, like the sales charts nationally, the sales charts in the region. But if you can find some things like that in your industry, even say this is your top product in your line, and make them feel part of the success, it makes them feel great. At the end of the day, that's one of the wonderful things. It's beyond just being a business. It's about working with people you feel good with, you're treating them well, you're giving them some attention, and they feel good about you, and it makes the world go.
Yeah. We always advise companies, we say, it's very much like building a partner in your business, and you should look at it like that. It's a win-win opportunity, and it absolutely has to align that way. And so
absolutely.
Yeah.
And at times as an entrepreneur, we're real tempted to take away key accounts. I did it, but always in the book publishing business in the US, there was one company, Workman Publishing, it was just so much better than any other company out there in the way in which they were run. It was amazing to me. Almost any book they published, they would outsell not just me and other publishers their size, they'd outsell the biggest publishers out there. They just seemed to do everything right. And one of the things they did when they became one of the largest players in the field is they not only did they not get rid of their independent reps, they didn't even take away key accounts from them. They might have negotiated the commissions a little bit, but they stayed fiercely loyal to these people beyond when other companies would say it wasn't making any sense at all. But it paid them back in ways that are unimaginable. Anytime their independent reps went into their accounts, even if they had 15 other lines, even if another line had the hottest book of the season, you can bet their account was totally positioned and pitched first. And not just positioned because it was more sellable, but because they love Peter Workman. They love the people there, and what a difference it can make. So you really want to set yourself up to be committed to the independent reps, never question them on account, pay them promptly. These people, you might think they're earning a lot of money, and they are, but these people being commission rep salespeople, they tend to spend a lot of money. So even though it might be really hard for you to make your bills and make your payments, you really want to pay these people on time.
Absolutely. And, we did a survey for the agents in our database, and we asked them, in order of priority, what are the most important things? And, we had sort of an internal bet going on, that how high commissions would be on this, because we know we've worked with agents for years, and we just know that, a lot of times people think that they're so money driven, but actually, the survey results were really interesting. They said, we value, honesty, loyalty, communication, the attention that you can give to help me, generate more business or to learn more about your products. And commissions were something like 6 or 7 down the list. I mean, it's a really important question to ask, like
most industries, they're more or less standard commissions. So for example, in the book business, the standard commission was 5% for wholesale accounts, 10% for small retail accounts, and maybe 5% for larger chains, occasionally negotiated down to huge chain. So occasionally, when a commission rep is taking on a new line, they might say, well, you really knew, I want a little higher, like 6% or 12%. And I would push back on that, because once you've been in business with them for 3 years, they don't want to remember that you're paying them a higher rate. Instead, if you want to do a little something extra, I'd say, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a little bonus to get going or something like that. But it's absolutely these other things that are going to make a lot more difference at the end of the day.
Definitely. And it's interesting because what we're trying to do at Commission Crowd is bring this very traditional 100-year-old industry sort of into the the modern day times, and open it up to any business, not just the traditional manufacturers or the books or medical supply, and really open it up. And what's really fascinating about that is that there's a real opportunity for much higher commissions in industries where there's much bigger margins. So products, of course, is we see sort of between 5 and 12%. But in anything like software, or especially software as a service, things like that, where we've seen commissions up to 60%. Like it's really phenomenal.
Well, that totally makes sense. I've had a lot of different business additional book publishing, a lot more selling advertising, and would pay the reps a lot more. But those kind of sales were a lot tougher. It's a lot different. When it's hard just to get the account to listen to you, you typically have to be a much higher commission rate. When the rejection is a lot higher. On the other hand, you expect the commission rate to be lower when the rep has a regular bunch of clients who are happy to listen to the product. So when the product is being resold.
Yeah, definitely. So have you always worked with reps, or have you employed in-house salespeople too? And do you have any thoughts on the differences between those two?
Sure, I've had a mix. In the book publishing business, we had a sales manager in-house who did some key accounts. And there was kind of interesting because at some of these accounts he would go to is we would have some accounts where we have independent reps who we didn't give our line to call on to that key account, but they were calling on it with the smaller accounts, and they really resented that. They really resented they weren't calling that account. And I think even if we had paid them a discounted commission on that large account, they would have been much happier about that than if they weren't presenting in that account at all. So I think as a result, it hurt our ability in the other accounts in the territory with those reps. And because the book business tends to have very high profit margins, especially the way I ran my book business, we're so much better off if we could have a little more volume, and even if we paying slightly higher commissions at the end of the day. And I would say overall, even though I had what I thought was a pretty darn good sales manager in these key accounts, some of these independent reps were even better. They had a lot more books they're selling, a lot more product lines, things like that. I've had many other businesses too. I've had in-house sales forces selling ads, selling software, selling multimedia, all kinds of different things. But typically with independent rep force, you don't have to spend as much time with them. You can spend much less time with them. Ideally, you want to spend some of that extra time, getting them excited, creating packages, creating contests, and all that kind of stuff. But it's nothing like, trying to go on your sales force and say, okay, how many calls today? Can you make some more tomorrow? Do you really have to spend a line in the coffee break? What can I do to get you enthused? That's totally different. So really with an independent rep force, if they're good, you don't even need a sales manager. You can do a little bit of the extras yourself, but you don't have to have that high-powered sales talent on the top. You can really use these independent reps. You can work with them to develop your strategies.
Yeah, definitely. And another great thing, certainly from our perspective, and I'm not sure if this is something that you'd ever thought about or considered, but when you work with reps, so we're a global database, we've got reps in 194 countries so far. The ability to have a business in, say, the USA, and have a rep on the ground in Europe or the UK or somewhere where they've already got that existing network, they've got the clients and contacts that know, like, and trust them. Have you ever worked with reps in that way, sort of on an international?
Sure. Yeah, Business Time we talk a little bit about distributors and all that. And one of the things when you're setting up a business, often you find a distributor, and this is one of the best ways to get in overseas countries, you find a distributor who really go out and aggressively push your product. And one of the best ways to find them is at trade shows, but your database sounds like a great way to do that too. So in any event, often you find these distributors, the distributor will say, yeah, I'll go out and I'll push your product everywhere, don't worry about it. And then you find out at the end of the day, they really don't go and push your product. They're really like a warehouse where they wait for the phone to ring. So sometimes what you need to do in that situation is you need to have both. You need to have like the warehouse who might call himself a distributor plus the independent rep. And even though the warehouse might say, well, we have people answer the phone, you don't need an independent rep. You might need an independent rep, but you also might need a warehouse kind of facility distributor because they have accounts. A lot of companies don't like to open up an additional account. They don't want to go through paperwork and all that. They might think the product's great. They might think the sales presentation's great. They might say, I just don't want to open up a new account. And you typically don't want to be billing overseas either. So what you might want to do is get a warehouse set up or a place that calls them a distributor, but isn't really aggressive in opening up accounts, and then hire an independent sales rep in that territory, and then you give them a percentage out of everything moving out of the warehouse across the board. That way they can feel about your partner, they're like a partner, and that way they can feel that they have everything going for them. If the account can be set up, the billing will be set up, the delivery will be quicker, all that kind of stuff. I get it's one of those things where you got to cut into your margin a little bit more, but this is how you scale a business and get bigger, is you're prepared to sacrifice your margin, and you go and rebuild your product, your service, so that margin's in it.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Really good advice. I mean, I think you've probably, because I think you work with a lot of startups, don't you?
Yeah, so they're mostly people like one-person businesses who come to business conferences for advice, but much bigger companies too. And when you're a startup, it's especially hard to do everything yourself, and that's one of the reasons you want to start with independent reps. In fact, if you're starting a small firm, you don't have to get independent reps everywhere. You might be, in fact, you might be much better off if you get one who's in a territory near you, so you can interface with them regularly, and maybe also so you can go out and essentially sell some accounts and hand them over to that person and get them going. Another thing you do with an independent rep to get them enthused is you go to one of their trade shows with them, you sell beside them, and you get an order and you hand it over to them, let them know you're getting a commission, and that's how you get some momentum going instead of like having a phone relationship initially with 50 reps all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. You know, our advice is always be as generous as you possibly can. You know, every business knows their margin, or at least they should. And, you know, they know, you know, what generosity means to them. And what we find is when we see companies nickel and diming, you know, that's, you know, or in any way, you know, because all of the reps know their industry so well, don't they? You know, so, you know, they'll look at a sales opportunity and instantly know whether or not they're going to be, you know, what type of individual.
It might be like one odd expense that they take on your behalf. And if you don't like pay that in a flash, even if you question it, they'll remember it forever. And we talk about generosity and margins. I look at it, might look a little bit differently. I mean, you're trying to have a little bit of income as a mom and pop. Is this a hobby? You want to scale your business. If you want to scale your business, don't even think that much about the margin day. As long as you have the cash flow, think about what it's going to be tomorrow, and think about building a long-term relationship with these independent reps. You have an in-house sales force, chances are they're going to be turning over all the time. An independent rep might stay with you for 20 years. He might even have his kids who take over the business who are selling when your kids run the business. I've seen that happen repeatedly. The loyalty is build and build and build over the years. So everything you do for them, you're building up momentum. But at the same time, you can hurt your momentum if you come out with a bad product, you miss a payment, or have any other slip up.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Well, that was all the questions that I had today. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about? Maybe some challenges that some trends or challenges that are taking place for businesses. All of our community is a business to business network as well. So if there's
Sure, I think that the big trend is computerization, selling by phone, inbound marketing. And I just heard a story yesterday about the company that's perhaps best known for selling inbound marketing services around Boston, that the vast majority of their clients they're getting by reaching out to people with hard sales calls and things like that. So even in this world where it seems like everything's done by computer, and you're not supposed to talk about sales, a customer's supposed to come begging to you, it doesn't really work that way. You want to really make something happen, you get sales going, and independent reps are a tremendous way to do it.
Yeah, people buy from people, don't they? And we always say that, you know, we think.
Say that we have a video almost by the exact same title on our website. Yes, people buy from people, not from companies. That's how they see it. And that independent rep, they have an ongoing relationship with. It's a huge advantage.
Definitely. And, you know, it's not, I'll just finish on this point, because it's, you know, what we found is the immense opportunities that come that maybe aren't even sales related. I mean, the partnership opportunities, just somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, and
And
this.
one example, with often the business opportunities that independent reps to bring in beyond their advice and ideas for products and changing pricing and all that and packaging catalogs, they would come and say, hey, we have somebody approach us to distribute our books. They're from another country, and I'd like to take them on, but I'd feel much better if it was part of your line, because then I wouldn't have to get my accounts to open up new accounts. It'd be a lot simpler. So I was lining up other publishers from overseas that I would sell, again, through these independent reps, but because it was going through me and I was doing the invoicing, it was tremendous, and I was getting a very high margin in these things. And it worked out great for everybody. It also bring opportunities to me when a book publisher might be for sale, all kinds of things. It goes on and on.
Yeah, good. Well, I really, really appreciate your time today. We were just so struck by your enthusiasm for the industry. And one of our key goals is to help educate companies, who want to work with commission-only sales agents. And I just really value your feedback and your experience. And thank you so much.
Another point I would add especially is that so often people are young, enthusiastic, good ideas, maybe education, but you're not as much a part of the industry as some of the other players. Independent reps can really bridge that gap. They can make you feel much more of a part of the industry. They can pass on what's going on currently in the industry, but one in the background, what's standard procedure. They can be candid with you. It's just such a great situation.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing, Laura.
Yeah, and actually one of the upcoming key things for us is millennials. So millennials have a real interesting need. They all want to be independent. They all want to live and work, around the world and remotely and all of these types of things. And what we thought about is, really it's amazing opportunity for somebody young to learn an industry as well by becoming a rep. Because you're getting all the contacts, you're learning the ins and outs of something, and you're making good money at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's typically not good money at first because it's very commission based. But I recommend for companies to look at the relationships with independent reps. Independent reps starting it should look at this as a long-term venture they want to get into, and residuals will build over the years in many different ways.
Definitely. Great. Well, thank you again for your time, Bob. And we will send you a link to this once it's up, and I'll put a link to your website as well, which is businessdown.com.
That's great. I think the great things at Commission Crowd. I think it's a tremendous product and service you're offering. And certainly you might want to do a story or a blog post or a video for our business town that we could similarly link back to.
We'd love that. Thank you.
Cool.
Good. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.